Welcome back to the Gio and Joel show. Today we're very excited to invite Paperboy Prince, Paperboy Love Prince, community activist and mayoral candidate, onto our podcast. Paperboy, thanks a lot for coming on.
Paper, yeah. It's our time. One love. Thank you so much for having me, Joel, Giovanni. It's much love. Excited to be here.
All right, so I think we wanted to get started by just asking you to give a brief introduction to yourself. People might not know who you are or what your work is, so is there anything I left out in my very short intro that you'd like to fill the details in on?
Yeah, so let's see. Where do we start? I actually met with a group recently, and they were like, I'm the ultimate multi-hyphenate, I think was the word that they used, because I do so many different things, and sometimes I put certain things on the back burner to like promote other things that we're doing. But yes, I'm a rapper, artist, dancer, singer, curator, promoter, motivational speaker. What else we do? Obviously, activist, politician. Yes, small business owner. What else? Web developer. So many things. It's so many things that we do. But it's so beautiful because all of those things that we do work together and actually inform our work.
Yeah, and that's what I found interesting about you is kind of how your community activism and your musicianship and politics kind of work in concert. How did you start the transition from music to activism and politics? Were they always like two dual interests for you, or was there a point where you started moving away from your music career? And
Paper, yeah, that's actually a great question. I'm glad you asked. I love thinking about stuff in that way. So basically, my story, I always thought music was silly, and people who like did music, I thought they were like silly and it made no sense. I kind of like grew up in a sense where my parents were very, what's the word? Like conservative in their views of the world. So in a lot of ways, as far as like career path and stuff like that. So, I never saw music as a real career path. And then I got into music eventually. But I was already into politics and activism because my family was heavily involved in that, in politics and in activism as well. My parents were like activists, led a lot of protests and, as well as like research and things of that nature. My grandparents as well, a part of a lot of the movements that helped really shape and make this country and this city what it is. And so that was always ingrained in me. For example, Martin Luther King's birthday is coming up. We would always watch like these Eyes on the Prize documentaries as a kid, seeing what has happened to us, seeing what the government has done to us, seeing what this country has done to us, and really honing in on that. That was my reality as a child growing up. And so I was always interested in politics, but from an activist standpoint, looking at, okay, how can we use what's going on politically to basically liberate our people, liberate our people. And then fast forward, we're just going to skip a bit. Fast forward to, I'm a street performer and I'm a rapper, and I'm like, oh snap, and I'm also like throwing a lot of events and parties, and a lot of these skills that I'm using as far as just super grassroots organizing, because a lot of being a independent artist is like, um, you know, skills that are crossover skills to grassroots organizing, as far as throwing events and throwing rallies on a low budget, being able to make things happen with a quick turnaround, connecting with community members, inspiring people, connecting with local businesses and all these things. This was just stuff I was already doing. And I had a lot of activist talks, and I was doing a lot of this work in the streets, but it wasn't official in the electoral sense. And so I eventually decided to just put that all together, use all the skills and direct them towards, electoral politics. So if that meant swinging my weight around in the presidential election, this past presidential primary, swinging my weight around in that, or if
Right.
it was,
I
my
saw
race, yeah.
I saw that Andrew Yang gave you a shout out when you made a song for him in the presidential primary. And now that he's jumped into the mayoral race, I guess I just want to quickly touch on this because we're talking about Andrew Yang. What do you see your role in this race as? You're still running, but Andrew Yang, as far as I know, is one of your idols or one of your political influences, at least. Are you going to drop out and endorse him? Are you going to stay in to kind of promote your community center?
It's our time. Paper. Yeah, I love you all's questions. So actually, let me back up a bit. So to finish the last part I was saying, yeah, I used my skills, my community skills, my art skills, activism skills to basically turn that into working in the presidential race, and then use the skills I even gained from that to my congressional campaign. And I'll say this about what you were saying. When Andrew Yang, you said, "Oh, Andrew Yang, gave me a shout out when I made a song about him." When it was more like I gave Andrew Yang a shout out and did a song about him. You know what I mean? Because when I did my first song about Andrew Yang, which now we're looking at, that was almost 2 years ago, people did not know who he was, right? People thought he was like when I made that song, they were like, "Oh, is this like your neighbor or something? Or like your friend?" He was not a popular candidate. He was not in the top 10 Democratic presidential nominee. He wasn't even in the top 10. Like, we were trying to get him on, we were trying to get him to like 20K on Twitter or Instagram, whatever it was. Like, so at that time for me, it was more so about helping to get these ideas out there. It was also about like showing people, hey, it's okay to support smaller, lesser known candidates. You don't just have to go with, oh, this person, because what you hear a lot in politics, oh, this person never has a chance to win, so people won't support them from the get-go, not realizing that their support can trickle into more support for the certain ideas somebody raises. It can trickle into more support for this person down the line, and it can result in this person actually winning the race. But that never happens if the people don't, step up and get behind them. So for me, at that time, mind you, he was not known. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was not known. I was bringing him up to a lot of people because a lot of people in my circle talk about politics. They're politically inclined people who went to college, people who read the newspaper every day. And they had never heard of Andrew Yang. I was the first person. And I talked to a lot of influencers. I talked to a lot of, again, political people, politicians, people that worked for staff. No one had heard of him at the time that I was doing these songs. And definitely not the people in my community, the people in, here in Bed-Stuy, here in Bushwick, they weren't aware of it. I'm talking 2 years ago when I did my first song about that. So yeah, for me, that was super important because I felt like, wow, I got to watch going from a point of someone not knowing about a political candidate, not knowing about a certain issue, and me being there on the ground floor, using my music, using my shows, using my social media, using my dances, to help get the word out about a political candidate and really shift it, especially in my local community here in New York. A lot of people told me, yo, you're the first. So when he started to rise and fast forward a year later, right, when I first did the song about him, till a year after that, everyone, a lot more people knew about him. They were like, "Oh, this is your guy." Hey, every time he was in an article, people were sending it to me because they were like, "Yo, this is the guy that's your friend," because he was so, unknown at that point. So what's my point? One, for me, I've never been afraid to take risks. I've never been afraid to step out and talk about what I believe in, even if it's unpopular. You see what I'm saying? Even if it's unpopular. And at that point, he wasn't a popular candidate. My management advised me against supporting Andrew Yang and doing the songs. They were like, "Yo, you need to do a Bernie song," because they were like, he's the person that people support. Like, he already has a bunch of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? And for me, I was like, I get that, but that's why I don't need to do a Bernie song, because he already has that support. He already has that energy. For me, I was like, oh, this guy has new ideas. He's less known. I can have more impact. I can use my influence that I have to push people towards him, instead of kind of, doing the same old, which was the Bernie thing, which I, again, love Bernie. I campaigned for him in 2016, but 2020 was different. So to get into, where I see myself in this race, and to back it up is, I'm like the Andrew Yang of this mayoral race, basically. Whereas others where I might seem like a long shot candidate to some people haven't heard of me, some people are less familiar. We might be you get what I'm saying? Kind of like, whereas so,
So if you're the Andrew Yang of this race, is Andrew Yang the Joe Biden?
Like, that could be it. That could be it. It could be Joe Biden. It could maybe be, sorry, drop something. It could be Joe Biden. It could be, I don't know, Bernie Sanders or something like that. I don't know, because there's so many people in it, but that it's very comparable to the presidential race, as, early on in it, there was like 20 people in it, 30 people in it. And mind you, that were like seriously talked about. And then there was like 400 people that were running for president. Obviously the media doesn't delve into most of those candidates, but they had the 20. So for me, yeah, I'm like the unknown, the most known unknown, and rising. We have tremendous upside, basically, I think, is what I even mean more so about saying that we're the Andrew Yang of this race, is that, whereas for them, they have where they are and people know about them, and it's almost like you become a target. I will say that he's the Joe Biden of this race, in that he's like can be a target in a lot of ways.
Right.
How Bernie became, once you become like the one of the front runners, you deal with different pressure. Like, he was able to, he was hoping that Joe Biden would say something to him. I remember being like, being in private chats with other people from the group, being like, oh yeah, we need Joe Biden to say something to Yang, or, oh, we need, Bernie Sanders to comment on one of his. You see what I'm saying? They needed that energy from the other candidates, because there was no smoke coming from anyone. Now, with him at the front of this race, or getting more talked about, it's like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I have a two-parter about Andrew Yang again, just because I'm interested in it, and then I want to talk about some other stuff. But first of all, do you think that Andrew Yang has sold out? And second of all, what ideas are you trying to promote that you don't think get enough daylight in the mayoral race, or you don't think Yang represents?
So you said, do I think he sold out? What do you mean by that when you say, do I think he sold out?
Well, I'm just saying, if you're still in this race after he's jumped in, like, it indicates that there's something missing from his political profile or ideology that you think you can add, right? Or maybe you're just trying to promote some idea that you don't think is given enough daylight. So my question is, what idea is it that you don't think is being promoted enough in this race that you feel your continued presence will promote? Or do you think that Yang has changed his political profile or ideology since you supported him in the 2020 Democratic presidential primary?
Thank you. That's a great question. For me, well, I'll say this to start because people try to pit me against other people and other candidates, and I always say, I have no competition, only collaboration. So my goal is to work with everyone. I have no competition. People say, "Oh, one of your competitors in the race did it." For me, I'm like, I'm Paperboy Prince. I have no competition. I only have collaboration. I only have community. I only have family members. My goal is to work with people to make stuff happen. That's the unique skills that I bring to the table, where most politicians, their main power base, their main skill is in division. Their main skill is in separation and in polarization, where my main skill is in unity. My main skill is in love and bringing people together. So that's something super unique that I don't think we've ever seen in the political landscape before. And I don't think that we've ever seen from a person like me, especially in the political landscape, which is what I feel makes it so special. But getting into your question, paper, yeah. Getting into your question, I feel like, listen, as one gets bigger, I don't want to say sold out, but as one gets bigger, there are certain compromises that you have to make. Whereas for me, because I'm so indie, because I'm so unsupported by the establishment, like, yeah, we've done Gucci, I've done some Facebook commercials, I've done Vogue, you know what I mean? I've done some major campaigns in that way, but how I got there is by being unabashedly myself, not compromising. And I think, a lot of people identify that with that and trust me for that. They know that, hey, I might be running as a Democrat, but I'm not afraid to get up and give a 10-minute speech about things that Democrats don't like to hear. But it's the truth, though. Yeah, I might be in New York, a New Yorker, but I might give a 10-minute speech about things that New Yorkers don't like to hear. But it's the truth, though. You know what I mean? So I might be queer, but I might give a 10-minute speech about things that queer people don't like, but it's the truth. So for me, I'm always going to speak truth to power. I think other people are going to let sometimes power influence them more. I also danced around the question a little bit. Let me just get right into your question. The real answer is I'm spreading love. We're spreading the most love. Like right now, they measure campaigns by how much money they raise. They should be measuring our campaign by how much love we spread. We spread more love than everybody times 10. The love spreading agenda that we have is so strong. It's so powerful. It's inspiring. When you hear about Paperboy Prince, when you hear me speak, when you hear about the issues that we're fighting for, and you see the way that we're fighting for them, it makes you want to get up out of the bed and vote. It makes you want to do something. It makes you want to help change your community. Other people are like, oh, they're cool. I like their ideas. That's a cool idea. Wow, they're giving me that feeling. But when you hear our message, it's like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I'm hyped. You know what I mean? It feels like you feel inspired, and for me, it's that radical love that we're talking about. So there's that. It's also, because basically you're asking the differences between me and him. And, it's that. It's also, I'm not a millionaire yet. I'm not a billionaire. So, and a lot of the other front runners in this race are millionaires, him being one of them. And I have friends that are millionaires. I think, I'm not hating on anybody for getting their money. Like they're all Americans. They're all important voices as well. But for so long in this country, for so long in this city, especially of New York, we've consistently voted for and put in power people that aren't of our same social and economic class. We consistently put people in power that are millionaires and billionaires, which just, if you just look at the numbers, isn't representative of the average New Yorker. The average New Yorker is like somebody making like $40,000 a year or something like that. Very far away from a millionaire, right? Like working 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, just to be able to make rent and have food on their table. And I feel like you need people who understand the struggle of that to really deal with the issues directly, because the people who end up being stat watchers, see, a lot of these guys, they purport themselves as like this guru and very um, specialize on all these issues, but really what they are is just stat watchers. And it's important to know the stats and know the trends, but if you don't know the people, you're missing out on the biggest, most powerful stat. You're reactionary. See, for me, I'm a visionary. A lot of these people are reactionary. They wait for the stats to tell them something. I tell the stats what's about to happen. you know so it's that, and then it's our magical powers. We have magical manifestation powers that help to change the world, that help to change the city, that help to change lives that no one else is tapping into. They don't even have the ability to, because they're so set in their own ways. And what we're doing is revolutionary. It's an actual revolution. It's you know raising the collective consciousness of the people. They need the people to be thinking a certain level. They need the education level of people to be a certain level. And if you could see me right now, I'm putting my hand down because it's a low level they need. They can't have you thinking on a higher level.
We had some technical difficulties, but Paperboy, if you remember what you were going to say, you can proceed.
A big part of what I'm talking about is, a lot of our issues that we're fighting for, other candidates have tried to poach, or have come around on, or are now touting as their own ideas when we were the first to stamp them. An example I was going to give of that was the New York Times just ran an article a couple days ago about saying something about like mayoral candidates like co-opt Yang's signature idea, universal basic income, which two things with that. One, he's no longer proposing universal basic income. It's like more so of a cash assistance program to the like most in need, I think lowest, most in need New Yorkers. So like less than 500,000. And it would be like $100 a month or something like that, $150 a month. The New York Times.
Sorry, I just want to. Yeah, it's about $166 a month. Like it's $2,000 a year for the 500,000 poorest New Yorkers. All right, you can go ahead.
Right. So my point was that in this article that they wrote about universal basic income, they mentioned all the. I didn't read the full article, but they mentioned other candidates that were like touting universal basic income. And it was weird because I was like, wait, you guys know I ran a whole congressional campaign on this issue a year and a half before any of them said anything about universal basic income. Do you realize that also happened in New York City and that we got more votes than pretty much every challenger, almost every single challenger in the city, maybe all but one or two, and those people won, and it was close. So I'm like, it wasn't like it was like didn't have like a lot of support as well. Like we like had a lot of support with that, had large rallies, protests, just to UBI specifically, as well as other things. And then I was directly working with Yang and other members of that team to help push this issue through this whole time. So it's just like, they try to purposefully ignore us. And this is what a lot of times often happens to like, Black people in a lot of things when it comes to like entertainment, definitely in politics. It's like, oh, you tell a joke and then somebody else tells a joke after you. And then the class laughs at that. And it's like, wait, that was my joke. You know what I mean? And that's basically what happens to us. Like so many things that we do, then you see AOC doing, then you see, the mayor doing, you see other politicians doing after us, other candidates doing, and we don't get that respect for that as leaders in this political sphere in New York City and in the country. I mean, we're like one of the leading voices, and and I don't do this for the respect of that, but the reason that I say that is to answer your question. That was kind of like specifically about that, but two, to let people understand how powerful our movement is that, like, okay, you might not hear about us on CNN every night, but the people that are on CNN every night are watching what we're doing and copy and pasting that into their whole plan of action. So, and we've done all this on a shoestring budget, which is like unheard of. That's the thing that to me is so impressive, that it's like going up against the millionaires, the billionaires, going up against the biggest banks in the world, going up against the biggest real estate interests in the world, going up against the biggest healthcare interests in the world on a shoestring budget. It's just me, the people, our community, and love, and we're have them scared. The last thing that they want to do is speak after us. The last thing that they want to do is us gain any more traction because we make too much sense. It's like, it's easy to write me off as crazy if you just see me one of my rap performances. But then when you actually hear me speak, when you actually see the community work we've done, when you see the organizing that we, orchestrate, it's like, whoa, what? Like, I didn't even know this existed. So the longer I'm like, a great strategy for them is just pretending that we don't exist, pretending that all the ideas we came up with, other people, are leading on when it's just not true, So, and that's why we fight how we do. That's why we are so unashamed and so flamboyant in our message, because we have to be. If we weren't, they would try to completely ignore us. So, yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
there's something that I've been thinking of this question based on some of the responses you've been giving, but a thought that came to my mind is I appreciate the way that you, and in the beginning you described yourself as the word wasn't faceted, it was multi-hyphenated. And there's so much emphasis either through the media or just the way that we educate people in general that someone has to do one specific thing and pick one lane and be good at that one thing. And if you do something else, you can't be taken seriously. So I like that you mentioned that. But the question that I had was, you've given you've sounded off on some of the issues that we have with our political process, right? The way that people with the most money, even regardless of the fact that it's an irrepresentative minority of the population, have so much influence. And at the same time, smaller candidates have a harder time getting off the ground. This is the first citywide election that's going to have ranked choice voting. So do you see that having some big impacts right away? And if so, how so? Would that be, you said you're one for collaboration over competition. So is that going to look like you maybe working with other candidates on the ballot and saying, let's rank each other? Is that going to look like, well, I'll just leave that to you to answer.
Yes, ranked choice voting is very interesting. And I think the math and the strategy on that is new for many people. And a lot of them who have kind of centered their message on division and polarization, like I was mentioning before, a lot of them now are at a impasse because they're like, oh man, what am I going to do? I'm so used to using this guy's bad and I'm the good guy. That side's bad and we're the good side to keep power and to keep people in fear. So now they have to do something different. And then that's why I'm saying we're their well of ideas. That's why they're coming to us, because like, oh, these are the people that are actually, Paperboy is someone that's actually leading the way and showing us a path to doing that. So yeah, I think ranked choice voting for Paperboy Prince is like, I mean, how many people are going to rank us second or third on their ballot? I feel like a ton. Of people, even already on Twitter. Now, granted, that's a biased platform, and so, for so many reasons, and obviously the people that are adding me on there are going to be more like supporters of me, right? I'm going to see more of my supporters than other people's, but it's a lot of people that I'm not their number one choice, but they're like, I'm a strong second for them right now. So who knows where that'll be in 6 months? A lot of people are talking about that. And again, a lot of the politicians don't want to say that. They don't want to say that I got more votes than, for example, Andrew Yang in New York City. He was running for president, and I believe he already dropped out of the race at that point. But just in my congressional race, in my one district, that was the only district I was on the ballot on, I got more votes in that district alone than I believe he got in the entire city. And, he was in the ballot all across the city and all across the state, but just in the city of New York. So what am I saying that to say? I'm saying that to say that we've got a ton of votes. We've already proved that we have a voter base here. That's not a myth. That's not something I'm making up. That's not a hypothesis. It's proven at this point. We've done that. So when it comes citywide, and the number one thing I heard leading up to the election, after the election, was, I wish you in my district so I could have voted for you. I heard that all the time. So I feel like once we go citywide, once the entire city has a chance to vote for us, hear of our ideas, especially in a ranked choice system where you want to give that unique voice more of a chance. I feel like a lot of people are. I feel like we're going to shock a lot of people about how many votes we get. I feel like we really are. Like, I don't see any way that, personally, I don't see any way of us losing this mayoral election. I don't see it. I don't see it possible. I don't even talk about it, but I don't see it possible. So with that being said, I definitely see us being in the top 3 candidates for most people. And when it's all said and done, I see us being in the top 3. Whereas right now, I don't know if they have us I don't know how often people are putting us in the top 5 or top 7 or whatever,
So you said you don't see any way of losing this election. So do you think you're going to be the mayor?
That's what happens when you win.
Right. Okay. So yeah, good. So I want to ask.
I feel like this, Giovanni. I wouldn't run if I didn't think I'd be mayor. I would not do this just to get my name out there. I wouldn't do this just to, get some awareness about an issue. I'm in this because I know that I'm the best choice for the mayor of New York. And I know without a shadow of the doubt that we will win this thing.
I love that, actually. I love that. I mean, that's extremely bold, and you clearly have a lot of passion. So I want to ask then, okay, you mentioned that you're basically the central thesis of your ideology is love, spreading love. Your middle name is Love, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to ask, and it seems to me from my research that love is kind of the central theme, and then detailed policy is more ancillary or incidental. So I want to focus on how love manifests in your ideology and how you legislate love and how you promote love through detailed policy. And I guess my question is, like, what are your main policy positions in this race, and how do they relate back to that focus on love?
Well, thank you. Love is so important, and love is like one of the most important things. I feel like, when we're operating in that way, so many of the things that we claim to fight for, the people we claim to fight for, they'll be centered. And it won't be so easy for people to pick the corporations over the people if we're actually thinking about love. So that's why that's so important to me. And detailed policy is really important as well. I'm a detailed person. My background is in journalism. I went to college for broadcast journalism as well as computer science. So my background is in the details and really fleshing those out. So what oftentimes happens, though, is the media and how I'm portrayed is just in this one way. They don't want to focus on our ideas. They don't want to focus on the detailed policies that we put out. When I ran for Congress, I probably had more policy positions than any other congressional candidate. I threw more protests where literally I'm in the middle of the street, walking through all of the streets, talking about my policies for hours on end. No notepad, no computer, no teleprompter, just me detailing them off the cuff in the streets, hundreds of people there, thousands of people there. And this isn't made up. This has been seen before. It's on, major platforms as well that have covered this. So for me, that's something that no other candidate could do. That's in this mayoral race. No other candidate could lead 600 people through the streets at a time like that during Corona, during the police brutality that was happening, the riots that were happening. No other candidate can do that and still center the conversation around love, not center it around these cops are bad, we need to go and bring the same energy they're bringing to us. No, centering it around love. These people are people. It's all love. And then also letting them know our policies in a very detailed way where you have plenty of time to hear about it, sit with it, listen to it. They don't want to cover that and show that. So for me, I keep the message of love and one of the reasons I speak it so loud is because no one else is speaking that message. No one else is talking about love, especially in the way that I am, in the way that we are. So I almost get repetitive when talking about it. But as far as my policies, we're super detailed. We're actually bigger than having detailed policies, right? Because a lot of these politicians, we're going to talk about it today. A lot of these politicians try to show themselves as so forward because they have detailed policies or they have certain write-ups about things on their website or what have you, not realizing that it's because of the government system set up that is so inaccessible to so many people. Just internet access alone, super inaccessible to many New Yorkers. Reading above a 5th grade reading level, super inaccessible to many New Yorkers. Just like reading political policies on a website. Who does that? Who does that? It's a certain type of person who does that. For me, that's not serving the people. That's good. It's a step. It's an important step, but that's not actually serving the people because, that's not how many people consume their information and really get in tune with it. If we're the point that I'm making is this, Joel. If we're marketing a new soda, right, you'll see it on, you'll see the newest celebrities with it. You might see it at a basketball game. You might see a commercial about it. If we're marketing the newest shoe, same thing. You might see it in a rap video. You might see an influencer with it. All of these different things. But when we're marketing our political policies, the things that's actually supposed to shape our society and help save the people, when we're marketing those, you're going to put them detailed on the website. That's not reaching the people who need it more. That's not reaching that bottom 500,000 New Yorkers. That's not reaching them. That's reaching the same political elite class that has been overserved for this whole entire time. Paperboy Prince is actually about the people. So when I'm releasing my policies, when I'm releasing my detailed policies, it's through songs, it's through dances, it's through parties and events, ways that, a lot of people who are traditionally underserved and forgotten about in politics aren't touched, aren't reached out to in that way. For me, I was able to register hundreds of people to vote in New York over the last year because over the last 2 years, at my shows and parties, I would always have, as a rapper, right? Just as a regular rapper, I would always have voter registration available. Imagine if every rapper, every DJ, every singer, every comedian at all their shows had voter registration available at that show. So for me, I might bring out 100, 250 people to a show. And if 30 of those people leave registering to vote that night, I'm reaching them in a different way that they wouldn't have been reached before. If I'm telling them about my policies at the rap show, I'm reaching them in a way that they wouldn't have been reached before. They're not going to go on the website and read about it. That's just such a small percentage of people. So for me, I try to do things in a different way to reach to reach more people,
Right.
to reach the underserved people. But to actually, get into the policies, there's so many of them. It's like, where do we start? But again, I mentioned $2,000 a month of a universal basic income, spreading love, which is an actual political policy, meaning, we would have love centers on every block in the city. So if you need a place where you need to get a hug, if you need a place where you need to get a kiss, if you need a place where you need to meet a friend, if you need a place where you need to just talk to some people, if you need a place where you want your dog to meet someone else, if you need a place where you need your kid to have it, we need love centers on every block in the city, and where we're constantly monitoring the happiness of people. The country was founded on the pursuit of happiness. That was in the thing. That was in the preamble to the Constitution, the pursuit of happiness. And I seem to be the only one following up on that, right? So like having these love centers that actually allow people they can learn new skills, they can meet new people, they can do all of these things. This is the type of stuff we're focusing on. And yeah, that's a heavy investment, but that is going to be the things that mark and change our society, that help to highlight the culture of the city, all of these things that preserve the energy of our communities, all of these things that other politicians aren't taking progressive steps in addressing. Another one of my policies is healthcare for all, finding solutions for everyone to have healthcare, everyone to have dental care, everyone to have mental health care. So this is kind of my big top three: the healthcare, spreading love, the basic income. I talk about futuristic schools a lot. I feel like, most humans in society that invented most of the things that we have didn't go to school the way that we did. They didn't go to school in a classroom with 20, 30 other kids in the inner city and have to take a bus there and have a period every hour. That's teaching you towards the corporations. That's not teaching you towards your consciousness, to being a better human, a more ethical. So I want to have more futuristic schools that also put more tools in the hands of the kids, that also, allows them to find their own path instead of us forcing these subjects in their face that, let's be honest, we don't use most of them now. Ending homelessness. There's a lot of ways we can make sure that there's housing for all. And then a greener New York, a lot of streets I want to turn into grass. When Paperboy's mayor, a lot of the streets you see might be grass. They might be trees there. There might be animals there. I want to make New York more green. And I think that will help to boost the happiness and love as well. And you see how all this things tie in with love. Ending homelessness, that's love. Futuristic schools, better educate, that's love. A greener New York, looking around, you see trees, you see grass, you see fruits, you see... That's love. You see gardens, that's love. Basic income, you got money because it made the city all about, that's love. Spreading love, paper, yeah, that's love. So that's what we're about.
So you mentioned universal basic income. You mentioned $2,000 a month, which is pretty aggressive. And universal health care. You mentioned love centers. You mentioned a lot of stuff that's going to cost a lot of money. Where does the city get the money for this kind of stuff? The city can't just print money. I've seen you mention in previous interviews not only defunding the police but abolishing the police. Is that one of your? Do you have like a financial scheme, and is abolishing law enforcement part of it? Do you want to talk about like finances?
Sure. So I'm glad you bring that up. A big thing that a lot of politicians talk about is taxing and taxation. And personally, let me speak specifically on the middle class and working class, lower class people. The taxes are too high on this part of the population, especially in New York City. I mean, for some people, they're paying 30, 40, close to 50% in taxes for what? What do you get for that? Cops that give you a ticket, which is another tax. What do you get for that? Streets that I live off of Broadway in Brooklyn. I've never seen a street with more potholes than that. What do you get for that? Politicians that during the biggest, pandemic that we've seen in our lifetime end up getting tens of thousands of people killed. I mean, I feel like if anything, our tax dollars should be reinvested into the people first. What happens is, and if you ever looked at these budgets are so, because, I come from a family who does a lot of government contracting and things of this nature. And even if you look at like a lot of the housing, like the public housing and how the contracts are given out to create public housing and affordable housing. We talk about NYCHA. We talk about UHAB. A lot of these organizations end up partnering with contractors that are very corrupt. They overcharge the city, they overcharge the state, and they are overcharging us, the people of New York, for a lot of the services that they give. And our politicians, because they're so unversed in creating the structures and doing things on a shoestring budget, like many of us are, they end up spending all this money to get us whack stuff. It's like you would think when they spend all this money, we're getting like the dopest of the dope. We're spending all this money to get like super, super whack stuff as far as the what's provided from our tax dollars. So one of the things that I want to focus on is actually, creating a system to where our taxes and our tax funds are used more efficiently, because a lot of that money is lost. If you look up, just millions comes up lost. Like they don't know what happened to it. A lot of that money we're talking about, you mentioned cops. I mean, we're talking about lawsuits, right? That they're paying out. And a lot of this money is just overspending. We're just overspending on certain things that we don't need to be. But as far as the taxes on the middle class, the working class, lower class people, we have to find more innovative ways to create resources than taxes. Because as our society grows, as we become more advanced, we have more advanced problems, these first world problems, right? And they require first world solutions. Right now, we fund our government the same way that they did like hundreds of years ago through Jesus's time. We fund our government right now the same way they did during Jesus's time. That doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. That sounds like a scheme. And the taxes are only going up. If anything, we should be finding ways for them to go down. Why don't we have somebody in the government whose job it is to find out how we can have more money, more resources for the people without continuing to raise taxes? And that's one of the reasons that something that I've brought up is community enterprises. So businesses that are for the people, by the people, and that fund the people. So starting to create businesses and industries that the revenue and the profit share from these businesses kind of help to supplement tax dollars, so that you're getting that, so that in the next decade, hopefully, you will be getting that 30%, 40%, 50% that a lot of New Yorkers are paying in taxes back, and you won't have to pay that large amount. There might still be sales tax and things of that nature, but as far as like income tax and things like that, we'll find ways to funnel that back into the people. Because right now, the United States, New York as well, getting massive tax revenue, especially when you look at, since more people are working, we have large immigrant populations coming in working. We have large, sects of the population that weren't working before, younger people, women, people that are doing jobs online, all of these things. The tax revenue has increased, but the people have gotten back from that is less. So for me, it's about finding innovative ways to, hey, yes, we need money to do things, but that doesn't mean it has to be the same old way of taxing the people. We should be reversing that and funding the people. That's one thing I'll say. Two, I'll say this. New York is New York City. You know, it's not Portland. I got love for Portland. You know what I'm saying? It's not Austin. I got love for Austin. I really do. It's not Los Angeles. I got love for Los Angeles. It's not Miami. I got love for Miami. It's not Dallas. I got love for Dallas. It's not Chicago, but I got love for Chicago. We're talking about New York. Paper, yeah. So what does that mean? People from all over the world know about the city, but the city isn't using that right. That we should be using the allure, the mysticism, the uh, magnitude of New York to actually attract more resources to the city. People from all over the world, far and wide, would donate to help make New York great, would be a part of programs that we create to help them, teach them about our culture, how people live, to hear, just see different things that are going on all the time. People, companies, brands reach out to me specifically to be like, hey, you're so New York and you're so in with what's going on in the city. Can you take a picture of this thing? Or can you tell us about that thing? Or can you talk about this? Or how did you do that? There's so much value we have here that we're not leveraging to the entire planet. All of those movies, musicians, TV shows, fashion that has happened here, we need to leverage that globally, you know, not just allowing the corporations to do that, but the city starting to leverage that globally. And there's lots of ways we can do that, monetize that, get that out there, and also simultaneously help the people, provide jobs, and then using those revenue that using that revenue to basically fund the people. So yeah, for me, I think we can definitely do it. I'm the only one bold enough to stand on it and take this task. You know, when this country was being started and there was the Revolutionary War and, you know, the British are there, and this is the British Empire, the biggest, you know, the baddest, the scariest. They have all these territories, all these colonies, and, you know, they're infringing on the people because of taxes being one of the things, the taxation without the proper adequate representation. They're infringing on the people. And you know what they say? They say that they didn't say, hey, you know, that's going to be hard to do, to overthrow the British. Let's just not do it. Oh, it's going to be hard. Paul Revere, don't ride. No, they got up and they fought, and a lot of stuff wasn't perfect, right? Especially if you were black at that time, but they got up and they fought, and it wasn't easy. There was some troubles along the way, but eventually it worked out, and now we have this nation that we do. And so for me, it's the same thing with these policies and these ideas. Like, we can't be afraid to fight for them, work for them. Of course, there's going to be naysayers, but I'm Paperboy. If I listened to no's, you would have never heard of me, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Someone has to be revolutionary at some point for something to change.
Exactly.
And, you know, it's interesting that you brought up the Roman Empire and taxes, and it says something about our ability to innovate, that we're stuck in this is the only way that we can do things. Angela Davis, I believe it was 2.5 months ago, gave a talk at my school, and she was asked about prison abolition and what should be done. And she said, well, you know, like we're an innovative species. As humans, we can come up with ideas. We're creative. We can come up with something new. So I guess I want to ask you about police abolition. If you could materialize that, how would you do that in New York City? Either gradually or more immediate? And what do you see the role of some form of police taking?
I'm wondering if police abolition is part of your financial scheme. Like, I mean, we can all agree.
I like that you're calling it a financial scheme. It's a mischievous plot.
No. Financial plan. I mean, I just wanted to mention, like, I think all of us here, at least, we all agree that the police budget is bloated and the police are highly militarized, and that excessive force and brutality is a huge problem that is endemic to the NYPD as it currently exists. But I want to know why abolishing the police is the best response. Of course, I've heard or I've read in previous interviews that you support, some mental health focused, citizen or community controlled organizations that are trained in escalation or de-escalation to kind of to supplant the police. But is there not any role for armed law enforcement in this city?
That's such a great question, and for some reason, Instagram doesn't want me to go live because I was gonna because I wanted to simultaneously share my answer to this on Instagram Live, but
Look, Gio, that's how good our question was.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now it's letting me do it. So,
go ahead.
Okay, so could you ask me that question again?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So you mentioned in previous interviews that I've read that you support abolishing the police in favor of citizen or community-controlled organizations that promote mental health and are trained in de-escalation. So I just want you to kind of outline how this would work. And, a lot of us on the left, all of us here certainly agree that the police budget in New York is bloated, inflated, and the police are highly militarized. Excessive force and brutality are endemic to the NYPD as it currently exists. But I want to know why abolishing law enforcement is the best response. And is there not any role for armed law enforcement to play in tamping down on crime in New York?
So that's a great question. So basically, I'm going to answer that in so many different ways. But to hop in, here's the thing with police abolition, right? We've seen, even with the attack that happened on the Capitol recently, that there are different policing for different people. And that's a problem. That's not fair. That's not just. It hasn't been fair. If you look at the inception of police and what police were created for, it's not a positive thing for all people. It's actually has been used as a occupying force in Black and brown communities. So for me, if I take a ride through New York, right, at 10 p.m., which isn't that late in New York, but most people are at home. And I drive through certain parts of Bed-Stuy where, there are police on every block. They're just hanging out. There's a bunch of cars. Their lights are always flashing. Even if the siren isn't on, their lights are always flashing. So what does this look like? This looks like you're living on a military base with this big brother figure always watching over you. It's an occupying force because it's not people from your community. It's a lot of people from Staten Island. It's a lot of people from Long Island. It's a lot of people from Jersey. A lot of people that didn't go to high school with you. A lot of people that don't go to the deli with you. A lot of people that, you know what I'm saying, that are then policing you, literally telling you what you can and can't do in your block. But yet they're not even of that block. They're not even of that community. They don't know what it's like to live there. They don't know Miss Jody that lives up the street. They don't know little Kenneth that lives down the hall, but they're telling you what to do, and they're telling you it in a very forceful and not loving way. And what does that do to people over time, especially when it disproportionately affects certain communities? And, it's a problem. It's a massive problem. So they've had plenty of time to fix it. It'd be different if this was the first time we were protest against police. It'd be different if it's the first time we've said, hey, we have a complaint with the police. No, this is the 1,000th, millionth time, literally. And the only reason it's gotten to this level is because of technology and videos and the social media being able to help spread the word of certain things, but the traditional news media wasn't covering it all accurately. The politicians turned a blind eye to it, and they still have. They said Black Lives Matter a couple times over the summer, and then now it's back to normal. No changes were made. No bills were created that helped to better protect Black and brown people from getting killed and brutalized, profiled, terrorized by the police. So for me, it's about actually finding ways to, there is no hope, especially for the NYPD. At this point, there is no hope. We have to abolish. And when I say abolish, that doesn't mean, first off, is this, anybody who, if you ask somebody who's a criminal or somebody who's been the victim of a crime where they had to call the police, because you think oh, if you don't have a police, what's going to happen? You're going to be killing yourselves. It's first off, the police are only needed in a society when there's a strong division between the haves and the have-nots, right? So that's when the police become most needed in a society, when there's this strong of a division between the haves and the have-nots. And yeah, they say you're going to be killing yourselves, but meanwhile, people forget police don't solve crime. They don't stop crime. If you're about to get robbed, you just got robbed. If you've ever been robbed in New York, you just get robbed. And then afterwards you call the police and it's, oh, what did it look like? What happened? Where were you? Okay, we're at the corner of Howard and Dean. Okay. They don't actually stop crime. So there's this, I would be down if there was a force of people that were actually out stopping crime, but it doesn't happen. They profile people and they do a lot of this stuff after the fact. But it's very rare that while a crime is in process, somebody's getting robbed, stabbed, shot. There is not they're there and they stop it from happening. They clean up the blood afterwards. And I hate to put it that frankly, but that's just the truth. So when people talk about what the police do, they're oftentimes misinformed. People, if we have police, there's still killings, there's still robbings, there's still all the other bad stuff that happens that I don't even want to repeat and perpetuate here. So, that isn't a solution. What really is needed to stop the crime, what I think would be a love team. People that are actually out, that are focused on spreading love, compassion, resources to people. If they see somebody stealing bread, which again is rare, police catch people stealing, super rare that happens. But if they see, or maybe after the fact, they hear about somebody stealing bread, say, oh, you need bread? Oh, here's $20 for food. Instead of, here's a $150 ticket, plus you got to come to see the judge. How does that make sense? Wait, I'm stealing because I don't got money. Yeah, well, now you're going to have even less. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I agree with it, to a large extent, right? That the main driver of crime is inequality, and oftentimes the police act as an institutional buffer between the rich and the poor.
Exactly.
But there needs to be some sort of unit with a monopoly of force that can enforce laws, right?
Tell me why we need that? I'm just curious why. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just you said there needs to be, so I just want to ask why.
Well, I think that it's central to any sort of government. You need laws to have a functioning society, and you need the government to have a monopoly of force to enforce those laws, right? Or else, then nobody. Let's not even talk about murderers or robbers. Let's say it's someone who embezzles money on Wall Street, someone who we all agree should be prosecuted or arrested. This person is someone in a powerful position, right? Someone who doesn't really need to succumb to any sort of legal pressures, if not for the police, if not for the government having a monopoly on force. So yeah, I'm wondering how a monopoly on force would manifest in your ideal society. Because I agree, the police need to be restructured and reformed aggressively, but I think that there's definitely still a utilitarian need for them in our society.
Well, Gio, I think you missed part of the question there a little bit, because you're basically just saying need for the sake of need, and I think you're missing here. If you can disagree with me here, but I think you're missing that the point is a monopoly on force is to provide order through coercion.
Yeah.
And whereas Paperboy's stance is more order through like choice and voluntary, and I think that's, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I think that's more what a love team provides, is less of a you're coerced into following the laws, and more because not following the laws is born out of that inequality, that struggle, and eliminating that eliminates the incentive to act disobediently.
Well, and yeah, I think in some cases that's true, but I mean, certainly not all laws are broken because of inequality. There's certainly, I mean, I don't, and Paperboy, you might disagree with me on this, but I think there are definitely bad people who want to subvert the laws just because they can, or out of greed, or some other, social vice. And
But can I hop in?
yeah, of course, of course.
But it's like, do they become a bad person? Right? Is it because of at a certain point they weren't getting the love that they needed, or they're just inherently a bad person? Shout out Rez Don't Die, Rez Lauren, and getting a lot of love. I got a lot of love, so I want to shout out some people. But there's a lot of situations now where things happen because people feel like they've been given up on. They feel like there's no one there to hear them. They have no other options. That's why people turn to these things. I mean, if you look at a lot of people who end up in gangs, right, who a lot of people would consider like bad people, you end up in a gang. Why do you end up in a gang? Because of the life choices that other people made that kind of like push you in this situation where, you might not have had family members around that were keeping you out of this. You might not have had a baseball team in your neighborhood. You really wanted to play baseball, but there was no baseball team, no baseball field. So you ended up in a gang. You might not have had all these other resources other people had. You might never had an example of someone who, or maybe all of your examples were gang members. So you just fall into that, right? And you fall into that lifestyle, and that's all you know. So my point is, if we actually put a focus on spreading love to the people, definitely with a heavier focus on children, because they haven't had the negative brainwash a lot of us have already had, and ends up with us being lost. Shout out to Goodman 9 too. Because of that, that's where a lot of our issues and our problems come from. So for me, but I do hear what you're saying, right? Like, say all of that is cool and nice, Paperboy, but yeah, then somebody slips through the cracks of the love team, of our love centers, and then they want to rob a bank, right? And they got a gun and they got a hostage, or what are we going to do, right? And well, there's two things with that. One, I'll say, because of the way that we've used force and display force as a principal way of dealing with conflict, because the government leads the way with force and with weapons as the principal way of dealing with conflict, it ends up being that trickles down to the people. That's how the people learn how to deal with conflict. How can you tell me not to fight? How can you tell me not to be violent? How can you tell me not to have a Glock 19 when the cops, who are seen as upstanding members of society, walk around with a Glock 19 every day and they get free Starbucks and donuts? How am I not supposed to be seeing the value of shooting, killing, and bombing people when U.S. military shoots, kills, and bombs, men, women, and children all over the world in the name of democracy and freedom. But you're telling me, oh, don't do this. We do this, but you can't do this. That's hypocrisy. If I tell you, Joel, don't litter, but every time you hang out with me, I'm throwing litter everywhere. It's like, but Paperboy, I rock with you. I think you're a cool person, but you're showing me you litter, but you're telling me not to litter. What are you saying? You're better than me? Oh, you can do things I can't. It's hypocrisy, and the people see that. And that's what's happening with the police. It's straight up hypocrisy. You're telling us not to be violent, us not to hit people. Meanwhile, the main tool that the police use to get people to do what they want is force, is violence, right? And that's always so interesting is that, and I'm going to get back to the question, but I want to stop and say this, is that, they always tell us in school when they talk about protesting and when they talk about resisting, they talk about nonviolence, right? They talk about nonviolence. They talk about like Martin Luther King and Gandhi and the civil rights movement and the bus boycotts, which are all awesome. And I'm very supportive of all these movements. But they forget to mention that the way the Revolutionary War was won, the Civil War was won, World War I, World War II, so many things were won, resources were gained, were through violence. And that's one of the most powerful tactics for change and social change is violence. And the US government has been the number one model for that, using violence as a way to get the social change that you want. And so for me, they teach us nonviolence in school as the way like, hey, Black people, if you guys want to get freedom, be nonviolent. Because that's Martin Luther King, the one we killed. That's what he would have wanted. But they forget that they show us violence is the number one way that they have gotten all the gains and the spoils that they have. Violence against the Native Americans, violence against Africans, violence against other nations. So for me, I just had to pause and say that. And when I talk about the example that's being set, what example are we setting for the people, right? Like we can't pretend we have minds that, and I remember I said earlier, our goal is to raise the collective consciousness of the people. So our goal is for people to actually be, thinking on a higher level about these things. Our goal is for people to be thinking on a higher level about these things. People will never think on a higher level about these things if we keep having this cognitive dissonance of, okay, the police, the military, the government is acting in one way and is supporting a certain type of actions, is sanctioning certain type of actions, but then telling the citizens not to do that. It doesn't make sense. So, but I will say to your point about having a, some type of force, what I will say to that is if we do, right, like, I don't think we can just abolish the police tomorrow. I think that it's something where, there's a path to it where we're defunding, where we're, divesting and kind of moving in a different pathway from that as we build up these other systems to help support our communities. But I will say quick changes that we can make are some of my favorite quick changes that we can make to the police that I would be proposing and immediately implementing when I become mayor. For one is a police that live in your neighborhood. So if someone carries a gun and a badge in your neighborhood and has the ability to arrest or fine you, they should live within a mile or two radius of that area. Because I feel like that would change a lot of the ways that police all across the country, and definitely here in New York. If you know that when you park your car and go home, the person whose neck you just put your knee on for 9 minutes lives down the block and their family and friends live down the block, you might think about that differently before you let your knee stand on their neck that long. You might not chokehold Eric Garner the same way if you know that, hey, I'm going to have to see him and his friends when I go to the bar after work. You know what I'm saying? So we need to have police that are actually in the community and of that community. Two, one thing I talk about, and again, like, this is the things that I'll say and I'll step out and say because I've been actually a part of the problem. As far as like I've been on the receiving end a lot of the problem, so that's why I'm so equipped to help, create solutions. But one of the main things that I love to talk about is positive reinforcement. Paper, yeah, it's our time. Positive reinforcement. Right now, with our current police system, honestly, our current government system, we have a system of negative reinforcement. The things that we do is we only highlight when something negative happened, putting a general banner over it, but when negative things happen. So if you jaywalk, or if you speed, or if you I don't know, do one of these infractions, these little infractions, you'll get a ticket. You might get arrested. These things happen. But if you do something good, there's nothing to reinforce people to do good. If I do something bad, if I'm homeless and I don't have any place to live, so I talk to police and I talk to a lot of homeless people in the streets, and they talk about, hey, yeah, sometimes I harass somebody and slap somebody just so I can go to jail and have a safe, warm place to sleep, something to eat, out of this cold for the next 4 or 5 days. I just need to be in jail for 4 or 5 days. We only have negative reinforcement. Where's our positive reinforcement? If you're somebody like me who's like giving back to the community, or you're somebody who you might just help an old lady across the street, you should be getting $100 ticket from the police for like, wait, you just helped the old lady cross the street? Here's $100 love ticket for helping the community. Wait, you just helped somebody bring their groceries up? Here's a $50 love ticket for helping the community. Wait, you're being a positive role model to the youth in this block? Wait, here's a $600 love ticket for this community. You can use it to help buy the kids some shoes and stuff like that. There's nobody doing that. Paperboy Prince is the only mayoral candidate that will ever do that. Whoever has the balls to do that, who's been proposing that for 8 months. New York Times won't cover it. It's our time. We're not scared. We're here. We're not scared. We're here. We're changing the world. We create it. This is our world. We create what exists in it. I don't take what they give me. I create it. I don't take what world that you give me and decide that I have to live in. I create it. My community creates it. We come up with it. I don't tell the people what to do. They tell me what to do. Right now, we have a government, we have a system that is enforcing laws on the people, but isn't listening to the people. How are you going to enforce laws on the people, but not listen to the people? There's a quote that say that, and you mentioned rules, you mentioned that we need laws and we need these things, but it's a quote that says, rules without a relationship causes rebellion. And what does that mean? Right now, we live in a place like New York where there's rules for every block, every step you take. There are rules and regulations, but there's so little relationship. There's such a small relationship between the government, between the elected officials and the people, that it's causing a rebellion. It's causing a young person like me to have to stand up in the face of the police. And the time when I'm supposed to be on the beach having fun, figuring out ways to make money so I can make rent and start my business and shout out the Paperboy Love Gallery. Instead, I have to stand toe to toe with the police. Y'all see what I'm saying? Like, so for me, it's like, it's about making that change. It's about creating that relationship. It's so important because yes, we do need to have some rules and regulations, some laws to help govern things so we can have an advanced and dope society. But at the same time, something super important that we need is that relationship of love, that connection of community. How we have 9 million, 10 million people in a city, but people still don't know their neighbors. That's not going to be the same when Paperboy Prince is mayor, because this is what I do.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. But you take that thesis and you jump to a different place than where I am. But agree to disagree. I mean, the driving ethos of everything that you're saying, it makes perfect sense to me, and I think Joel would agree. It's just, I guess, we see different ways of getting to that place where you have both rules and a relationship between the city government, which is supposed to be the ultimate expression of the people's will, and the people themselves. Okay, so I just want to ask you real quick, and I don't know if Joel has a question that he wants to get in.
And I want to let you know, don't let my energy throw you off like I have an issue with you all. I love you all both. I get amped when I talk about this stuff.
No.
You know what I mean? And it's like dope. You know what I mean? So this is my energy I have about it, but I don't want you to think that that's directed at you or like that I have an issue.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. No.
Okay.
I love this. I love this.
Okay. Perfect.
I love that energy and that passion. That
it's our time.
Do you? This is like a pretty simple question. Do you have like? Do you call yourself a socialist or an anarchist? Do you have any label for your ideology, or is it all fluid?
You know, I call myself a god, actually, a god, goddess. People ask me my pronouns. I'm like, God, goddess. I'm like, y'all not even going to respect my pronouns if I say them. So y'all might as well just use any pronoun with love, but mine are God and goddess. But no, I go with a lover. You know, for me, I'm not so much into the labels because, again, these political labels have been used to divide the people. When most socialists, most Republicans, left wing, right wing, most people want the same thing. Mind you, I'm the type of person that's talked to all of these people, you know, and being a young Black person who, you know, I can't just spend all my time around Black people, you know, as far as to get out in society and things like that. I end up having to be around different people. I've traveled around the world, traveled around the country on tours, on all these different types of things, got to talk to so many different types of people. And from what I realize is most people actually want the same things. It doesn't matter if they're socialists, doesn't matter if they're communists, doesn't matter if they're, again, Republican, Democrat, left wing, right wing, Trump supporter, Hillary supporter. A lot of people want the same thing. They want a good life for their family. They want their kids to grow up in a safe world. They want clean air. They want good food. You know, most people want the same things. But again, the politicians have used these different labels to try to divide us. My thing is about uniting us, you know? So, and I've done such an amazing job of not falling into these traps of these labels. And I agree. And my thing is like, yo, I agree with a lot of these people on a lot of different things. And there's some things that I don't agree with on, but all of the different groups I named, I agree with them on different things. And then I disagree with them on different things. But for what I see is I see the commonalities in the unity that we have together. I see the ways that we can come together. I don't see all of the differences. I don't see, you're a socialist. You're a Trump supporter. I see you're a human. I love you. It's our time. Haha, paper. Yeah. You know, I see us coming together. So for me, it's like, I'm almost about to cry right now because I actually see how we can come together in a unique way. And I'm so excited to use my powers for good. I'm so excited to use my powers to bring people together. I'm so excited because, you know, they try to divide us for so long, based on our race, based on our gender, our sexuality, our political ideology, which part of the country we live in. And my goal is to bring us together, to actually help the people, you know, in a real way. And like that unity is so powerful. And like you were asking me about detailed policy before, like that's the only detail you need. I'm telling you, that's the detail that you need right there. Because when you have that unity, when you actually have people that want to bring people together and are willing to take that step, it changes the world. It changes the world. That's how we got here. By unifying people, by not being afraid to do that. You know, we don't have the most money. We're up against millionaires and billionaires. We're up against millionaires and billionaires, biggest banks in the world, biggest real estate companies in the world of all time. And we're still here standing and they're scared of us because we have everyone on our side. We have the people on our side. It's so powerful. I'm so inspired. And they're not going to stop us. They can't stop us. There's no way. It's too big. Love always wins. It always wins. It conquers all. It's too powerful. The power will overtake you. I've seen it before. I've been in areas where I'm surrounded by gang members. And people ask me, like, and they say, Paperboy, well, there's these issues going to community, the gun violence, and I'm saying, yo, I'm actually in the community, surrounded by gang members, and they see us giving out food. They say, yo, how can I help? We want to make a change. We want something different. We're tired of this. There's nobody's providing a way out. We're tired of this cycle. I've been in it. We want to get out of it. We don't want this anymore. Who's providing a way? It's us. We're doing that. There's a reason that they don't want our word to get out. There's a reason that they don't want us to amplify this message, because it's so powerful. It changes lives. Yeah, so that's what I'm about. Shout out to the people that have gotten a badge and are alive. Res Don't Die, Gooden 9, Jordan Noel, Essa Elio. Oh wow, yeah, I'm really crying right now. I really appreciate this. Wow.
I want to thank you for your passion, and tell you that you bring a very inspiring voice to not only the field in New York City, but to politics in general. There's so much inhumanity that our politics is based on. You talk about the way that people want the same things and are so divided by the labels that we use. And it's interesting because even like Gio and I, who we have minor minor disagreements, but otherwise we're pretty much on the same page with a lot of things. We use very different labels for how we describe our politics. So yeah, there's a lot of rhetoric that gets in the way of people just communicating with one another. So I guess I want to ask you about the ways that you intend to reach out and scale up your campaign, because you've got the experience of running a congressional race, but how do you plan on reaching out to everyone in the city and getting your message across? Because you've got an inspiring message and you know what you believe in. So what are the next steps that we should expect over the next couple months?
So I actually have to get going in a sec. So I really appreciated this. This has been awesome for me and really informational, and I love speaking with you all. But I can get to that. And what I'll say is, we have a lot of tricks up our sleeves.
Yeah. And I guess you can tie this into your, wrapping it up, I guess, what can we expect from you in the next couple months?
Well, one thing I can say is we got a lot of duff stuff. We have a lot of dope stuff happening at the paperboyprince.com Love Gallery, which is kind of my first experiment as a love center. Now I get it. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not a billionaire. I scrape together whatever money I have to, start this space that's community space. And we also sell vintage clothing and dope stuff and do a lot of, community and charity work as well. So a lot of stuff is going to be happening there that you can look out for. We're also going to, I have the album coming out, which I mentioned before, that's going to let you know about a lot of our policies and the things that we're fighting for. I'm doing lectures. I've already done a few lectures at some universities and I have some more coming up. But I'm going to do my own lectures that I'll be posting online, and that will go detailed into some of the issues that we're fighting for, some of the policies, some of the ways that we're going to implement them. So these lectures will kind of provide a way for people to kind of have a more in-depth view on the issues we're fighting for, and will stand as a resource for others across the country that want to, use our ideas as a model to base some of their own on. And again, we have a lot. Those are kind of the stuff that I can speak about. We also are allowing people to run our campaign, so kind of vote on the issues that we fight for. Give me suggestions on what to do, what to wear, what to say, all of these type of things. I'm opening that up to the people. So we even did that a little bit on my Instagram page. Like yesterday, I kind of let people know I'm going to be in a mayoral forum soon. Said, hey, what ideas do you want me to talk about? What issues are important to you? And they're still coming in. I have people texting me, I have people commenting, and shared it on Twitter as well. So and I've never seen anyone do that before. I've never seen a politician, before they put out their political agenda, allowing the people, their supporters, to shape that. And that's kind of what I've done. That's what democracy is supposed to be about. So we're doing that, and then we have a lot of tricks up our sleeve that I'm super excited about, that I don't want to give away just yet, but put it like this: like, it's our time. It's our time. That's all I can say. It's our time. We got some big things coming. And there's a reason that the other candidates want to not highlight us, because they know as soon as you pass Paperboy the ball, it's LeBron James, Michael Jordan time. You know what I mean? We did all of this before with $20. I woke up this morning, somebody donated 25, another person donated 25 to our campaign. My last campaign for Congress, we did 9 months with only $20 in the bank, and we didn't use it. We used it the last week. The first thing we did when I got my first set of donations, when we started to get I had $1,000 in. But by the time we could get the money out of the bank from our donations, the election was already over. So I spent maybe $1,000 on pizza at one point at a protest. But my point is, what I'm saying is that we did all this with no money. If I had $1 million, $6 million in my account, like some of these other candidates, I already would be changing the city. I already would be implementing a lot of the policies. And we already are doing it with the resources that I have now, right? Feeding people and doing all these things. But it's just changing the world. It's so fun, so funny. And we're inspiring so many people. I've had people all over the country that are running for office that are also got elected. There's a young rapper in Maryland that got elected to their city council, and he cites me as one of his main inspirations for running and doing it how he did, right? And it's that's only the beginning. It's happening in New York. There's a lot of other candidates that the first person that they talk to before they announce is me, or that they want to get some info on about local. And I'm not just talking about people running for office, because that's not even one of the main ways that you can make change. But people that are just getting involved, that are starting community organizations, that are deciding to try to fight back, we're one of the main people that they're tapping in with. And I see that as because we've been able to show ourselves as a leader with not a lot of money. We've been able to do this on a shoestring budget. So my point, I keep bringing that up, is wait till we actually get that. Wait till we actually get that. Wait till I'm one of these candidates that have $150K in their account, $1 million in their account. Imagine that. Imagine that. So, and part of the reason we do these things on the budget that we do it on is to help inspire people. Because if you see Paperboy Prince, but that I'm backed by all of these people, I got endorsements from all of these famous people and big, I got, money from all of these. It's not as inspirational, because it feels like, oh man, he got all the support. But the truth is, we really did it with no money. We've really been here with, and had to just do it with me, my speaker, one of my roommates, walking a poster, and that ends up, we get 16,000 votes. How do I end up getting more votes than AOC with $20 in my bank? How? Because it's our time, because we have the people believing in us. So I'll say that to say, look, we got a lot of stuff coming. We're going to win for mayor. Paperboyprince.com Love Gallery is dope. I love all of you so much. So happy to be here. Super excited. And paper, yeah.
That's That's great. Thanks a lot for coming on. We really do look forward to seeing how this unfolds and seeing what tricks you have up your sleeve. And before we go, because I know you have to run, just a really quick question. What does it mean when you say, ha, paper, yeah?
Ha, paper, yeah. Ha, paper, yeah. Ha, paper, yeah. Ha, 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 paper, yeah. Ha, paper, yeah. Ha, 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 paper, yeah. Um, it's love. It's love. That actually came from that goes with what I was just talking about. That actually came from me being a rapper, and at one of my first rap performances, I wasn't even trying to be a rapper, but I had one of my first rap performances. Like, you know what? I'll do it. One of my friends from my basketball team in high school was on this. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And it's my turn to rap, and everybody kind of goes away from the stage, and they're like in the back, and no one's listening. And they're like, I'm like, wait, did they not know Paperboy Prince is on Paperboy Prince of the Suburbs is on stage right now? Did they not know what I'm about to? They don't. So I started paper, yeah, because the person was like, "Oh, we have Paperboy, Poster Boy, and I'm just like, paper, yeah." I'm just on it, and people are looking back like, "What's going on?" And then they start coming up, and then I drop my first song. And then they feel that energy. I got the governor mad. They said I'm too wild. They said I'm too rad. I talk for the people. You talk for the man. I got the wish remade it the man. I'm so in love, but they hating again. We spreading love again. Yeah, we spreading love again. I got when they start hearing it. Next thing you know, everybody, yeah, hey, you know, it's a vibe and it's like an epic moment. So for me, that kind of just speaks to like believing in yourself. You know, at a certain point, you got to believe in yourself. Like a lot of people want to wait for other people to believe in them. They want to wait till, Beyonce believe in them to believe in themselves. They need to be validated by LeBron James to be believing. You need to be validated by Barack Obama to believe in yourself. You need to be validated by your mom to be believing in yourself. You need to be validated by all these other people, your neighbor, the people on social media to believe in yourself. You're not good enough even for you.
Well, thank you very much.
Good enough even for you to believe in yourself. You're not sitting there like, you know what, Paperboy is good enough. If Paperboy thinks Paperboy is dope, then Paperboy is dope. You, as soon as the first person starts doubting how your worth, you start thinking what they're thinking. You got to be centered. You got to believe in yourself. You got to know that what you got is gold because it is. There's nobody on this earth that will ever have the same experience that you have. There's no one on this planet that will ever have the same molecular structure and body and mind and brain and experience that you have. It's only you. You're a gift to this earth. You're a gift to this world. You're so special. So why even for a second doubt your worth? Why even for a second doubt what you have? Even if it's not perfect, even if it's not the result that you want at that moment, it's eventually going to get there. But we're not taught that. We're never taught that. We're always taught to invest our worth in the grades that a teacher gives us, invest our worth in the love that a significant other gives us, invest our worth in the money that a job gives us. We're never taught to accept our own worth and the worth that we have as something special. So for me, you know, that's kind of where I center myself on, and that's kind of where the paper yeah comes from. If I really wanted to get a little deeper into it, there's a lot of ways I can take it, but that's kind of like, you know, the first way of doing it. So yeah, paper, yeah.
It's a great message of self-affirmation, and we thank you for your passion and your dedication and your time here, and we really do look forward to seeing what happens, but I know you have to go, so thanks a lot, Paperboy Prince, for coming on, and good luck to you.
Thank you. And I'll say this. Y'all can find me at Paperboy the Prince on Instagram, paperboyprince.com, 1254 Myrtle Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. You could actually stop by and see me and talk to me. You can even text me at paper92327. That's paper92327 or 727-379-2327 if you want to talk to me. And check this. We're changing the world right now. We're building our team. So if you want to volunteer and join our team, you can do that. DM me on Instagram or go to paperboyprince.com. Should be a volunteer link there. You can join. and help us change the world. So yeah, and I was going to say to you all on this podcast, if you talk to other candidates or for any office or different people that are in politics, definitely let them know about Paperboy Prince and what we're doing. It's always an interesting question when you hear them talk about us and our movement. I feel like that's just an interesting question because we're such an outlier. We're like an insider but outsider at the same time. So yeah. Paper, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on.